What is your assessment of China's aggression? We've spoken about Chinese aggression, and the United States of America remains focused in containing China in many areas, regions, Taiwan Strait certainly being one. Sure. Do you see a role that India could play in the Straits? Also, more importantly, I'd come back to our own LAC and how we've seen the Chinese aggression. And there have been assessments from the United States of America where they say that the Department of Defense report, which says that China has gained valuable operational and tactical experience with the experience at the LAC. So where does the security assessment of the United States of America right now stand when it comes to China at the LAC, or for that matter in Taiwan?
Well, let me first say that we really appreciate the statement that India made on August 12th about China's aggressive actions towards Taiwan. India joins a large number of countries that are standing up to China as it's attempting to bully and intimidate Taiwan, contrary to the statements of China's own leaders that have called for peaceful resolution of this conflict. With respect to the line of actual control, our policy has long been, from the United States, to support direct dialogue between China and India to resolve this in a peaceful manner. Unfortunately, we're not seeing any sincere efforts by Beijing to resolve this dispute. What we see is the opposite. We see an effort to build up military forces, to try to intimidate India. I don't believe for a moment that India will be intimidated, but China is definitely flexing its muscles. India can expect all of its partners, including the United States, to stand resolutely with India as it faces this terrible threat.
Don, there are so many areas of convergences, but there are certain areas of divergences as well. Russia-Ukraine war being one, where there have been differences between India and the West. But the house in Europe is in itself not in order. There are differences within Europe. What's the assessment of the United States of America and how oil is continued to be bought from Russia? And India has made its stand very clear. Having said that, there are many countries within Europe who could change their minds come winter. So what's your assessment come winter?
So let me start by saying, absolutely true, we don't exactly see eye to eye sometimes on the Ukraine crisis. Having said that, we do, Indians and Americans, share the fundamental belief that we want to see an end to this conflict as soon as possible. We want to see a restoration of peace and security in Ukraine. And we stand for, as two democracies, territorial integrity, independence, and sovereignty of countries all around the world, including Ukraine. We have welcomed India's contributions in Ukraine. Specifically, we have welcomed huge amounts of humanitarian assistance, foods and medicine and other vitally needed commodities that your country has provided. Two, publicly and privately, you have called for humanitarian corridors to move civilians out of these dangerous zones of fighting. And I remember the days when you yourself had 20,000 students caught in the middle of this terrible war. And third, we have appreciated when you have condemned human rights violations, including the violations in Bucha. We think India has a role to play in this Ukraine crisis, and we are grateful for the really good communication that we've had. With respect to oil is a big issue. You know, my family consumes gasoline and natural gas, and we see prices rising every day. This is hard on families around the world. So we have been talking to India and other partners about how do we mitigate the effects of Russia's aggression in Ukraine on all of us because of the very volatile price of oil. We have tried to talk to partners, including India, about reducing your long-term dependency on Russia. You're right, you don't actually have a long-term dependency. This is a relatively new phenomenon where you're buying oil. I think the months to come are critical. We worry about the stability of oil prices going into this next winter, and gas prices as well. And we want to work with big consumers, important countries like India, to make sure we're doing the best for American people, for Indian people, and for people around the world.
Focusing on South Asia, your area of interest, Afghanistan. Zawahiri being killed in the heart of Kabul city. They have not admitted it or accepted or acknowledged the information that was put out by America. But that certainly is a concern, as much as it is for the United States of America. It certainly is for India.
Yeah, absolutely.
India has very high stakes. How is the United States of America dealing with the fact that there is nexus between the Taliban and terror networks that continue to thrive in Afghanistan and the AfPak region, and the nexus between the Taliban and Pakistan when it comes to supporting, abetting, and harboring such terrorists?
So the sheltering and hosting of Al-Qaeda's emir, Ayman al-Zawahiri, is just proof for the world that the Taliban has grossly violated its commitments under the Doha Agreement. In addition to that, we can see now that the Taliban is undermining its own stated goals, which were to seek international recognition, to get financing for the rebuilding of Afghanistan, and to get the legitimacy that it craves from the world community. How can it do that if it's harboring dangerous terrorists? So we are reevaluating ourselves, our relationship with the Taliban. I think that's true of many countries today. And I'm grateful that we have good cooperation with countries around the world as we think about how to do the best for the Afghan people, but also how do we protect our societies from the threat of terrorism that happens, that could rise up again from Afghanistan. You mentioned Pakistan. What is really interesting to me today is Pakistan also sees the threat coming from terrorism from Afghanistan. Pakistan has launched airstrikes into Afghan territory to go after TTP training camps. Pakistan has lost lives of its border troops along the border as they fight over the fence and other border issues. It's quite a complex relationship between Pakistan and the Taliban. We are talking to Pakistan about this. We are talking about the need for all of us who have an interest in a stable Afghanistan to work together to prevent terror groups from being able to operate freely in Afghanistan.
The F-16 sales of equipments is a concern for India, given that quite a few times we see, or we've witnessed, even America has witnessed, that the equipments are not always used for the right reasons. Did this issue come up during your meetings with New Delhi, and what was the concern that was raised, and how did US address it?
Well, we heard several concerns, obviously, from the government about this. Let me just say very clearly, this is a safety and maintenance program. There is no new aircraft being considered, no new capabilities for the really old aircraft that are being maintained, and no new weapon systems. This is very much about a worldwide policy that the US government has. Whenever we provide or sell defense equipment, we support that equipment through the life cycle of that particular system. So in this case, that means spare parts and maintenance. What we are proposing to provide, and it's a sale, it's not assistance, would be servicing of engines and wings of aircraft so that these airplanes can actually stay in the air safely. Some of these aircraft are over 40 years old. Without this sort of assistance, they would be a danger to the pilots and potentially to other people.
On that note, Donald Lu, many thanks for joining us here.
Oh, I really enjoyed being part of your show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.